Welcome to Solo Spotlight. I'm your host, Ryan MacDougall. In today's episode, we're diving into something really special. A story where martial arts meets public education and personal development meets innovation. My guest, Curtis Malin, a third-degree Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, educator, and driving force behind the BJJ Program. A groundbreaking initiative based right here in Edmonton. Curtis leads the only North American school that has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program where students in grades 3 to 12 earn academic credit as they train in self-defense, discipline, and resilience, all during the school week. What started more than a decade ago as an after-school program has grown into a full-fledged elective that blends 7 hours of mat time per week with yoga, CrossFit, even gymnastics. It's not just about technique, it's character development, mental focus, emotional control, and physicality, empowering students in ways that traditional sports don't always reach. So in this episode, we're going to ask the big questions. What sparked Curtis's vision into bringing jiu-jitsu into public schools? How do you gain trust from parents, administrators, and the students themselves? What does success look like in a program like this? How do you measure it academically and emotionally? And ultimately, can this blueprint help schools across Canada, even across the world? With that said, welcome to Solo Spotlight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. We're so glad to have you. And with that, welcome my guest, Curtis Malin. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Curtis Malin. Curt or Curtis?
Curt.
Curt. All right, perfect. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, teacher. Yeah, amazing to have you. I have a working relationship with your brother, and I have a couple people that I interviewed that also were like, you have to get this guy on. Like, he's doing some cool stuff. And to integrate myself into the MMA community, I've held nothing but like welcomeness and like amazing stories.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for having me, and I know the audience out there listening is gonna have a great time listening.
Yeah,
so how you doing today?
I'm good.
Good?
Really good, actually.
Good. So let's go into it. Starting with jiu-jitsu. Where did this all begin for you?
Oh man, that's a long story. When I was growing up, I'm from Edmonton. I was a hockey guy. That's like blinders on, focus, NHL. That was the dream. So I played, and I was just super serious. So there really wasn't any time for anything else for me. Like I played baseball in the summer, and then as I got older, baseball got pushed aside. More hockey training. So I played hockey all the way up till I was 25. And then I had to medically retire because of concussions. So it was kind of like when it was done, it was like, what do I do now? Like my identity was a hockey player, was an athlete focused on one goal. So it was kind of like, ooh, I'm lost. But there was always that piece of martial arts that was always there because I love martial arts movies. Ninjas were super cool. I was like, wow, I'm gonna get into martial arts now. I got to do something. And at that time in Edmonton, there wasn't Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was. I think there was one club in the city. Kyle Cardinal, I think, was running it. So I went to a whole bunch of different gyms. I looked at Aikido, I looked at karate, Taekwondo, and then I settled on a Muay Thai kickboxing gym. So I started training then, which is ironic because I can't be punched in the head, but I went into a striking sport.
Right.
I just let the instructors know that sparring was never going to be a thing for me.
Right.
So while we were doing the kickboxing, they did start a jiu-jitsu class, like just on the mats beside, and I always found myself just like looking over there, like what are those guys doing?
Mm-hmm.
So I started training in that. That was 22 years ago. So
that's crazy.
And then it just kind of fell into my lap, and it was perfect because I didn't have to worry about head contact. Jiu-jitsu as a sport like works for smaller people.
Mm-hmm.
We've all heard how it's good for smaller people. It's good for non-athletic people.
Right.
It's good for people without strength because it's all leverage based.
Right.
And so you just kind of like dove into that. I was like, I really enjoy this. And then, just continued to train. And then, of course, the jiu-jitsu scene and the MMA scene blew up.
Right.
And now I don't
huge.
even know how many schools we'd have in the city now, but it's awesome to see.
It's really cool because you see that, like, no matter who you are, there's always like a lane, right? Of like whether you want to do more of the technical aspects, whether you want to do like more of like the heavy focus, like or you want to do the throws with judo, or you want to do kickboxing, or so. And then to build off of that, it's like then when you expand outside of Canada, it's like then the world just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Even like I'm from small town Nova Scotia, and I'm seeing like younger people that family members or something like that, and they're training with Cody Garbrandt in Vegas, or they're right, and you're just like, how does a dude from Nova Scotia end up? It's very interesting how like a sport like this can pave the way into so many different things. Now, when you bridge, like, so again, because of taking the hits to the head and the concussions, is that kind of what limited you to when you look at like competing personally? Where did you see like your ceiling, or like where did you see that like you kind of known that like, oh, was it more of like a timing age thing? Was it more of,
I think in terms of competition, like there was no ability to compete in kickboxing or MMA for me. Like that was something that was never going to be on the table, given like how many concussions I had and how like severe the symptoms were.
Just too dangerous.
That's basically what the doctor said. It's like, don't get another one.
Right.
So then getting into jiu-jitsu and then having the opportunity to train hard and then to compete without the threat of a concussion. Just the way that the rules are set up in jiu-jitsu, very rarely does it happen where somebody smashes their head. Like it's sometimes it can be a hard takedown, but like the more that you train and the more you accept going to the ground, which is the joy of jiu-jitsu. It's like if I get taken down, it's not like in judo where like I hit my back on the mat, it's over. It's ippon.
Right.
In jiu-jitsu, so when you get taken down, you can accept the takedown, which means that you can keep yourself safe. And I found that was just so perfect for me, and it's translated into how I teach with the kids in my programs. We do a lot of stand up, and we go hard, but at the same time, for the kids that are not as athletic, it's like, well, go to the ground, get there, and we'll do all the cool stuff down there.
Exactly. Did you when you like growing up and doing sports, were you always like a natural educator or like teacher, or was it something that kind of took time to build into?
I did. My grade 5 teacher was absolutely fantastic. I think everybody has a teacher in their life at some point, or a coach, where it's like, that's the one. That's the guy.
Yeah.
And for me, he was unbelievable, and he was so good. I just remember after grade 5 being like, I'm going to be a teacher. That's what I'm going to do. And I was an athletic kid, and I'm sure I was like, you can't sit still, can't stop talking, like always moving. So sitting at an office at a desk was never going to be a thing.
Right.
So it's kind of identifying what I wanted to do as I got older, and then I just that never changed all the way through. I think when I was in Anchorage for my first year in university, of the 11 freshmen that were there, I was the only one that declared a major.
Oh wow!
Because I knew.
You already knew.
The other 10 guys were just like, we're general studies because we don't know yet, which was so I always knew. Now,
do you think like that kind of intent or like purposefulness? Did that come from like your time in sports, or was it mainly like jiu-jitsu that kind of like pulled that out in you? Or
I think it wasn't jiu-jitsu because I played hockey for through my university career, and I had still and then I taught at hockey schools, and then just having good coaches and good teachers throughout my academic career and throughout my hockey career and baseball career, it's kind of like you see the impact that those people can have on you. And it's like, well, I want to be like that guy. I want to be somebody who can make an impact and see somebody be successful, whether it's learning how for my grade 5 students, learning how to do 2-digit multiplication, or when I taught at hockey school, teaching a kid how to do a backward crossover.
Right.
And then seeing the smile that comes with that, being like, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, well, I helped you do it.
Right.
So I get a little bit of that too.
It's like it's the feedback loop where you're like, oh, okay, I this works. Yeah, that's really cool. It's really interesting that you kind of had this idea in your head for a long time, and then like throughout time, you're just slowly inching your way close. So you get into teaching. How did that look for you? Like going to school and teaching, and because you talk about the desk thing not being for you, was going through university kind of.
Well, it was by the time I got to university, I had learned how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Right, in high school, I wasn't the best at it, but then when you're playing hockey, and you have a full course load, and the coaches expect you to be in the gym and working out, there isn't a lot of time for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So those first couple of years in Anchorage, I learned like what I needed to be like a real successful student.
Right.
And then moving through into like a teaching gig. With my first 5 years, I taught with Bosco Homes, which was for school for at-risk students.
Okay.
So that gave me a whole different perspective about like what teaching is.
Mm-hmm.
To teach a room of, we had 13 to 15-year-olds who just came from like just absolutely traumatic backgrounds. The fact that they wake up in the morning and came to class is like, you're winning already, and we haven't done anything yet. So your resilience is amazing. So learning how to teach those kids and learning how to develop a relationship with like the most vulnerable, the kids that already don't trust adults, was really beneficial for me. So when I transferred into Edmonton Public and I went to Donnan to coach in the hockey program, I had some skills that transferred immediately.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to develop relationships, the value of a relationship versus just teaching academic curriculum, right? Because kids are going to work harder for you if there's a relationship there than if you're just telling them, hey, you got to do a page of math.
What do you think was like the hardest part of like earning respect from students?
The time it takes for them to develop a trust in you, to know that when you say something, like you mean it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a real hard accountability working with at-risk students, because they've been lied to and terrible things have happened because there's no trust.
Mm-hmm.
So to work with students like that and to develop that relationship, to show them that like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see the days where you come in and you ask them to do something and they say, oh, I'll do that, but can you sit with me and help me? It's like, oh, I got you.
Yeah.
We're winning right there.
Yeah.
And that was big. And then to take that into Edmonton Public, where I've been for the last 18 years, those lessons are huge.
Was it going from like a school of at-risk students to maybe, I don't want to say regular or normal students because that wouldn't be fair, but going into less of a specialized school?
Yep.
Was there any type of like transitioning that you had to do for your mentality, or like in terms of your teaching style? Was it more like you're laying off the gas a bit, or was it even like, oh, now I'm going to take these skills in hand and I'm really going to hone them in?
I think it was a little of both. Like the skills were immediately applicable. What I did recognize is when I was with Edmonton Public School kids for the first year, I was almost too soft as a teacher, because I'd see a behavior and be like, it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't throw a desk.
Because you have such a high level of exposure this way, where it's like then you could see anything and you're like, that's nothing.
Yeah, he just yelled at me and refused to do his math. He didn't throw the textbook at me,
mm-hmm.
and then come after me. So there was that development that I had. It's like, okay, well, how do I interact with these students, utilizing the skills that I learned with the previous group?
Was interacting with parents different? Because when I look at risk youth, I can say I can come to an assumption that the level of parenting or the involvement of parenting might be different when you look at risk children based on their background. Was that something that you learned when going to?
Definitely, yeah, because my interactions at Bosco were with social workers.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have parent involvement, which was part of the reason the students were there. So when getting to Donnan, and now I remember that because I had a grade 6 group for my first year at Donnan, and the first group of parent-teacher conferences were just like, I was just shaking.
Yeah.
It's like, I've never done this before. Like, what are they going to ask? And by that time, at that time in my teaching career, I was still younger than all the parents, right? So like, you get older parents coming in and just
like, who are
sitting
you?
across from you, and you're just like, this is a little intimidating.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had some sort of like imposter syndrome? Like, did you feel like because you were in like a specialized school to start that you were like, oh, maybe I can only do it there?
Given the academics that we were teaching at Bosco versus like I had grade 6 curriculum at Donnan, and it was like, this is what you do. There was a little bit of that. I had really, really good mentors at Donnan. I had a couple of teachers that I worked with who were also in grade 6 that helped me with resources and helped me with like, trajectory of my lessons and planning units. My principal, Henry Madsen at Donnan, was just one of those people. But like, if you look at all the people in your life, coaches and mentors, then you put top 3, like, he's the guy. He's also the guy that helped me get the Jiu-Jitsu program going. So he's got a special place in my heart for that, for sure. That's really interesting, because I think that might not be where like teachers usually land. Like, is that something that someone coming in, like, would you usually get more of the harder teaching jobs as like a new teacher, or was it kind of you just, when you finish school, you're just getting drawn out of a hat? It's like, you go there, you go there, you go there. I can't answer that based on the new hiring. When I got hired at Donnan, it was to coach in the hockey program. So I had a grade 4 group, and then so that runs Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in the afternoon. So all of the mornings and all day Tuesday, Thursday, we just do core subjects, in order to get all of the Alberta curriculum minutes finished. So I had hockey program and then grade 6. So it was leaning heavily on like the other instructors and teachers on how does this work, but it went really well. And like I said, it's turned into what it is now. So so when we look at the personal edge of this, where we look at like your own training, how did that parallel with what you're doing in your teaching career? Like, did these kind of go hand in hand where you're like progressing, or was it more of like you achieved this and then you got into martial arts and then it built off of it? I started jiu-jitsu my first year at Bosco. So when I got to Donnan, I was 5 years in of training jiu-jitsu. And then I think it was probably October of my first year at Donnan, Henry, my principal, asked if was jiu-jitsu for everybody? And I'm like, of course, yes it is. And I was, I think, a 2-stripe purple belt at the time. And he's like, well, I've got, my daughter's in grade 5. She's a high-level gymnast. I think some self-defense would be good for her. So I started teaching his daughter Tuesday and Thursdays after school. And I think we did that probably for a month and a half before he called me into his office. And he's like, well, my daughter, Kira, she loves this. And she's talking about it all the time. I've watched some of your lessons. She's improving quickly. Is this something you think other kids would benefit from? And it's like, of course, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I think everybody.
So this was more of just like a favor for like, so doing it for the daughter was more or less like,
oh yeah,
hey, can you just like help me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
well, it's my boss gave
me
like
got you the job.
What I thought was the best teaching job ever. I was like, for sure. And of course, it's a little bit cheating on my part because gymnasts have such unbelievable body awareness.
They say it's like the most amazing skill you can have for martial.
So like, you ask Kira to do something and she could just like instantly do it. It's like, oh, this is easy teaching.
Yeah.
So that's when the conversation for starting a program at Donnan started. So it took then from November probably to the beginning of June, through meetings and demonstrations with the Edmonton Public Admin, the brass, showing them what we were planning, and then diffusing the questions of, well,
what if someone gets hurt?
What if somebody gets hurt? Isn't jiu-jitsu just tattooed guys in spandex bleeding on each other?
Because the thing is, what I would think immediately is like, oh, that's liability through the roof.
Well, and the
All
only
it takes
thing,
is 2 5-year-olds.
yeah, the only thing on TV at the time that had jiu-jitsu in it was that first season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Right.
And like that first season was nuts.
Nuts. Yeah, nasty.
Ending in the Bonner Griffin fight.
Yeah.
So like the admin, especially the phys ed department, they would reference that all the time. Like I did a 20-minute demo with my instructor in front of the phys ed department head for all of Edmonton Public, superintendent, assistant superintendent, and Henry, my principal. And at the end of the 20 minutes of us doing jiu-jitsu and judo and self-defense, he's like, well, when do you guys punch each other?
You don't.
That was the answer. And he's like, oh, so it's very similar to wrestling then.
Yeah.
We have wrestling in schools everywhere.
Right.
It's like, you guys can do it. And
right.
it was that. It was just like, it was that one question, that one answer. And it's like, we don't ever hit anybody. We have defense against people that punch and kick, and we'll teach the kids how to do that. But at no point in time in a public school are we teaching striking.
Striking, yeah. Because it's just not part of the...
Well, like, it's not possible because you can't, like, even in karate or boxing when you spar, you can pull your punches, but like what happens the one time you don't, right?
And then it takes away all the credibility of the program because then it's like, all right, get rid of it. Yeah. We don't, because that's the thing, like if you're looking at it from someone that like has to like take accountability for this, it's like all it takes is one.
And that was the conversation that we had during the first year when Henry and I would meet about like how the program's going. It was like they're watching and they want to know, like, did one of my students use this in the playground at recess?
Yeah,
like
put someone in an arm bar or something.
Or like choke somebody. So having that, like, kind of like constantly watching forced us to look at what we were doing. How do we produce our lessons? What is the conversation we have to be having with that first group of students in terms of their responsibility learning a martial art in a school setting? And that went really well because that first year of students that I had, there was 18 of them, and we trained in my classroom. So at lunchtime we had to move all the desks,
put the mats down,
train, and then move the mats and put the desks down again for the next morning. But they did a really good job of buying into being leaders at the school, understanding that they're going to have a skill that nobody else has, which basically translates to, if you get into a conflict, you don't have to fight. You can use your words because you know that you've got skills that person doesn't have, which then speaks to the self-confidence piece of like, well, now I can actually diffuse a situation on the playground by using words, or I can intervene if I see somebody bullying somebody because I've got that confidence that I can handle a situation. And then the program, as it grew and we got more students, then, we started into really focusing on the sport aspect of jiu-jitsu because that's where it started to explode in Edmonton.
Right.
And then all of a sudden there's tournaments now for the kids to compete in. And now the kids in my junior high and my high school program, they're also wrestling on the side. And I've got 4 or 5 of them that are focused on University of Alberta wrestling scholarships.
Oh, wow.
So to help them achieve those goals is really neat, considering like where we came from.
So when you were doing this program, where were you at, like when you look at outside of the classroom or even outside of the school system, where do you think you were at in like your level of instructor? Were you like, how was that work? Like when you looked at coaching at gyms and stuff like that, how did that assist you or like almost hinder you in ways? Because now you're developing a curriculum for students, but then you also have to like pack that away, come back here, and then it's more of like the higher level of training adults. Or so was there kind of like butting heads there where you felt like your training style had to be different? And like when you get to like earning your black belt, I kind of want to go through that as well. Like how did your progression as like a teacher and building these programs, but also personally and like getting past your purple belt and having this time as an instructor over here, and then like how that kind of like amalgamated in a way?
Starting out, like teaching at and it's happens for people right now. If you start teaching at purple belt level, whether you're assisting a class or the guy who owns the gym gives you your own kids class with some monitoring, as long as you're getting feedback, right? Nobody can step into teaching and just know how to do it. So to have mentors like I did that were on the academic side, and then to be on the ice with some master level instructors, those are just the lessons that I then applied to in my jiu-jitsu program and my teaching in that. It's like, okay, well, what did we do last year when I was on the ice with the elite hockey group? How do we run an hour and a half practice? And how do you run an hour and a half practice when you've got different levels on the ice? And it's the same for jiu-jitsu. Like, I'll have kids in each of the 3 programs this year that have had 0 days of training on day 1 versus some kids who have had 6 years of training. So how do you differentiate for all of those students? So that was the learning curve. And I just leaned so heavily on all of the people that I had access to, where I could go and say, hey, how do I incorporate a student who has MS into my classroom? Right? So then that's talking with those people, in bringing in the parents who know way more about like their child than I do, and saying, well, where is he successful in athletics, and then how can I apply that to like him learning jiu-jitsu? That was one of my favorite years, is trying to modify programming for like that particular student. It was awesome. I also have always had really good assistant instructors, and assistant's the wrong word because we're team teachers.
Yeah, it's
right?
like they're teaching just, and it just might not be the structure that they've like implemented, or they're not like the focal point. Yeah.
Well, as soon as our numbers are over 20, we need 2 adults on the mat anyways, right? For safety reasons.
Right.
And I've always just had access to just super high level jiu-jitsu like instructors. So I had Andrew Gummer, who runs Method Jiu-Jitsu. He's an absolute genius when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So to have access to him and to be able to bounce ideas off of him, like how should we do this unit? What should we be moving on to next? And then I had Mitch Clark, who's a former UFC fighter. I've got Justin Sander, who owns Ludus Martial Arts right now. He's absolutely fantastic. Jason Waz runs the junior high program. So high-level instructors for me to be able to work with has made it so like I'm not just my own island, and I'm not constantly just myself being like, what do I need to do? Right? There's always that conversation of, I've got an idea. What do you think? And it's like sometimes like, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Other times like, I think we should modify that, go this direction.
Did you collaborate with them with a lot when you were trying to like kind of justify the program for public schools? And how did that work? Like, did you kind of incorporate these guys into your like?
At the beginning, it was my principal, and then explaining to him what jiu-jitsu was, and then him understanding it, and then him being such a high-level educator and such a well-respected principal in Edmonton Public, then him taking what I said and turning it into like
something that they can
education
digest.
Jargon.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just sit and watch him during a meeting and just be like, I couldn't have said any of that.
Yeah.
Like that is. I should just take notes over here.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's So, and that's how it built.
It's very interesting when you see people who are very articulate, because in some points you can get in rooms with people where like they're just talking circles and you understand everything they're saying, but you're like, oh, like I never thought of that. That was a great way to explain it. And then you're like, what's going on here? Sometimes I sit in the room with people, like 90 times out of 10, I like almost every time I like tell them like, yeah, I'm definitely the dumbest guy in the room. Like, but it's very interesting in how much of, because I used to coach soccer at a pretty high level, and it was the idea of, well, how do you explain that? Like when my coach was teaching me, he would say like, and it was just explaining how you have to like move with contact. So like instead of getting hit and being rigid, and like say if I'm dribbling and I have someone come on my back, well, I just use that to push me forward instead of trying to stop him. But he talked about like Bruce Lee like moving like water.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. He's like, if I'm putting water into a cup, it goes into the cup. If I put it in a vase, it goes in the vase, right? So, but it was a great way of him articulating that, of something very easy for like someone that's 11 years old
right.
to be like, oh, that makes so much sense, right? So now getting awarded your black belt, and through talking to Dave McLeod, he said Eduardo Teles? Right.
He's my current instructor. I didn't get my black belt from him. I got my black belt from Master Silvio Bering.
Okay.
The gym that I started with, and I went all the way through with my black belt, Arashido. Their affiliation is with Master Bering.
Okay.
Who I think now is like an 8th degree black belt.
Right.
And so it was 10.5 years of training. Cool thing with jiu-jitsu is everybody's journey is different.
Right.
So I got my black belt on the same day that Andrew got his black belt.
Right.
And he was at 6 years of training.
Right.
He was just able to put in like more time during the week than I was, and again, we just take different paths.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really cool to get our black belts together. And I think we were 13th and 14th in Alberta for black belts.
Oh,
which
wow.
is kind of cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
And how did that, like, that must have been like, so you said 8 years, that must have been like 10 years,
yeah.
10 and a half.
Yeah.
That must have been like a huge, like, kind of like I got to it. Is getting the black belt like an elusive thing, or is there more responsibility that comes with that?
It was funny. I met Eddie Bravo in Las Vegas at a UFC, and he asked my buddy and I, like, oh, what belts are you guys? And we were brown belts at the time. And he said, ooh, you're just about ready to start learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
what does that even mean?
He's like, well, at black belt, that's when you really learn. And I was like, so that had always stuck with me, especially as an educator. It's like, well, each belt, it shows progression, but at the same time, it just opens more doors. The longer you stay with something, the better you are at learning that something.
Mm-hmm.
So, from white to blue, you're basically just learning a bunch of techniques. And then by the time you get to black belt, if you've stuck with it, you know what your style is, you know how your body can handle certain positions, you know athletically where you're at, and you can build your game around that.
Mm-hmm.
So now you kind of just, you can take pieces and for your own style and for your own game, and then applying that to teaching. It's the same thing. It's like taking a look at the students and being like, okay, well, what do they need?
Mm-hmm.
That student needs better escapes. That student needs better takedowns. This student needs to be more aggressive. This student needs a little bit more grit. So you can see that. Whereas when I was teaching at Purple Belt, it was just, these are the techniques we're doing. Let's do them, review them, get better at them.
And is there any belt system that's involved in like the curriculum at like the public education level, or is when you're training, do you kind of explain to them like the overall like arching thing outside of like the school program system, like besides the curriculum, besides getting the credit, etc., are they explained the belt system, or are they explained like the progression of? Yeah,
because we run exactly the same as every other school in Edmonton. So if the kids are with me and they train with me, then they'll grade with the jiu-jitsu program through
Mm-hmm.
all of the belts. We have some kids that train with me and at other schools at nighttime. So it just depends on, where they want to grade, right? So I have a whole bunch of students that, train with me and then grade at Arashido or grade at Frontline or grade at Ludus. So we just make sure that there's an understanding between me as a coach and then the other gym's coaches, that we're not stepping on any toes.
Yeah, it's just
if they train with me during the daytime, during school hours, and then they train with you in the evening, and they want to compete for you at tournaments, then that's fine. My program is primarily skill development. Like, I'm not looking to take all my group to a tournament and win like the top team award.
Like, they still have like their team that they can go back to if they want.
If they want, but then I also have, I'd say, 75% of our students, when they compete for the BJJ program, because they don't train anywhere at nighttime.
Right.
The benefits of training during the day is we get a lot of students that wouldn't be able to do jiu-jitsu given their hockey career, given their lacrosse training, right? Because their nights are jam
packed.
Like,
games on the weekends,
practicing every night,
summer camp,
and that's another reason why we don't have a huge population of our students compete, because tournaments are on Saturdays or on Sundays, but so are all the hockey tournaments, right? So it's neat to be able to have the kids be dual sport athletes and to provide them with the pieces of jiu-jitsu that intrinsically benefit other sports.
Do you find there's more of a, where say it used to be basketball and hockey or baseball and hockey, do you find that there's more people making decisions between high-level martial arts and high-level other sports? Like, do you think now now that it's starting at a young age, it's starting to come more into like that's becoming a factor in like people's roadmap in terms of wanting to develop, or is it still not there?
I think it's getting there. Given, 18 years ago I started the program with 18 kids, and this past year we finished with 85 in the three programs combined. Wow. So like it's growing, and we do have students in the program that train with me. So they're doing 7 hours of mat time a week, and then they train at another gym in the evening and add another 3.5 or 4 hours to that.
Right.
Which is why, generally speaking, you see those students compete really well, because what they've done is they've just decided, like, this is what I do. And whether or not, that's the neat piece for me, is I get a lot of students, especially in the elementary program, where their parents come to an open house and they're just like, my son or daughter hasn't found a sport. We tried soccer, tried gymnastics, tried whatever, and it's just nothing's really stuck yet. So we're going to try jiu-jitsu. And then sometimes, majority of the time, once the kids get into it and they start learning some skills and they start having some fun, it becomes like that's their identity. And we've got some real success stories on kids who started out that exact way and now are just killing it on the competition scene. Right.
The insight is amazing, and the ability that you can be self-aware and kind of understand where that balance is of like, okay, how much are you pushing this? How much are you like letting kids make a decision? Yep. Now, do you think like there's a lot of times what I said as a coach was like, I don't coach skills, I coach attitude.
Right.
Like at a young age, do you think that is true? Like when you look at Donnan, and do you think that a lot of your time spent in that age group is more coaching and attitude than it is actually practically coaching?
Absolutely. And it has to be. Because you can't, especially in a sport where we're in essence teaching kids how to hurt each other. So all of the life skills that go with teaching jiu-jitsu or being a jiu-jitsu practitioner, it's like, if you can't respect your partner, then your partner won't trust you, which means you don't have a partner anymore. The ability to do something hard, fail, come back, try it again, like that whole grit resilience piece is massive. And then just being in the room with grade 3 to 6 kids, sometimes we have to lean on the grade 6 kids to be leaders to help the grade 3s. So the grade 3s get tired. We're asking them to do 2 hours of jiu-jitsu, which is a massive amount of time for an 8-year-old. And sometimes we need to lean on the grade 6s. We'll play a game and we'll pair the grade 6s with the grade 3s, and we'll have a whole bunch of fun. See the energy in the room raise up again, and then we can get 15 minutes of rolling in. because all the kids are like energized again. But that was because of the leadership aspect that we've built in, and we start teaching the kids at grade 3. So by the time they're in grade 6, like they're ready to take that on. And it's really cool to watch. It's really neat because it is attitude first.
Right.
Because if you come into jiu-jitsu in the room and you have a poor attitude, which can look so many different ways. Like if the best kid in the room has a poor attitude, then everybody suffers.
Yeah.
If the best kid in the room has the best attitude, then it's like
they know who to role model.
Oh man. All ships rise.
It's very interesting too, the different levels of respect from the person that's leading a program and their peers, and how it still takes someone leading the program, but it also takes like a level of responsibility and it's just growth within that person and the sport they choose to go into of like, okay, it's my job or my duty to also like role model what I was role modeled, and like passing that down. And it's something that like I think is a total untangible that like people don't necessarily, because I always juggle with the fact of like, is when you get to a high level, is coaching, mentoring, or instructing part of that responsibility? You know, and if I leave that out, is that the missing piece of people's puzzle that they can't get to that level because they just haven't explored that? Or maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe it's they think they're going to get at that level, and is it kind of something that's like almost mandatory in a way of like, you're not going to get there unless you actually, and I'm sure you can attest to the amount of things you've learned with your own skills from just being able to teach it and like articulate that in a way where you're like, oh, it's even making more sense to me. Yeah,
that's the joy of teaching,
right?
You'll be watching the kids and they'll do something or they'll ask a question. You'll be like, I didn't see it from that perspective, right? So just being in the room, again, like you said, if you're focused on positive attitude and bringing that and trying to model it, and then you get the kids doing it, it's so powerful, and it pushes everybody in the right direction.
Right. How have you felt like your coworkers, and without it being like your principal and vice principal, but even just other teachers, how do you think they like responded to something like this? Was it something that you needed to coax them into?
I think there was a little bit of apprehension at the beginning, like when I first started, but then as we went through years without obviously injuries or without students fighting in the playground or fighting in classrooms, the teachers started to see the benefit of what we were doing in the classroom with the students, because you think if you can learn a closed guard triangle or a single leg takedown and all of the different variables of finishing that based on what your partner does, and you can get to that technique and you can do it in live rolling against a resisting partner, how hard is learning long division? Right? Long division isn't like pushing you back. If you can learn steps and be resilient and fail and not get discouraged and keep coming back and learn to ask for help, so that was when it turned. And I was probably 3 or 4 years in at Donnan where the teachers started to see like the students starting in jiu-jitsu in September and what they were like as students in January and February. They would start to say, I've noticed that so-and-so is a lot more confident. He's asking way more questions. Or he comes to my desk all the time and explains where he's struggling. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. He does that in jiu-jitsu all the time. He's like, I need help on this move. I don't know how to do it. Come show me again. It's like, okay, so now there's translation and there's overlap. Right? So now the kids, again, are learning how to learn, or learning what they need, and are applying it to other areas. And
how, building on that, I'm interested to know, has it ever went in a way where a student took advantage of the training or did the things that the faculty or you as a teacher were worried about? And how did you have that conversation with them? Being young as well as being a teacher and this being your job, how did you like approach these when you ran into these like kind of albatrosses in a way of like, okay, maybe it's just like an attitude thing or they're just getting a little too cocky and I need to kind of like, I need to reel them back a bit, but without panic and like without turning them off of the sport.
True. Jiu-Jitsu is kind of the great equalizer when it comes to attitude, cockiness, and performance. There's always somebody better. And even if they're not better, if they're older and bigger and they can neutralize what you can do. So if students are getting super cocky and are, we see it a little bit sometimes where the kids get really good and they know that they can beat all of the younger kids and they kind of just start to cherry pick those roles because it's easy and it's fun because they get a whole bunch of submissions. Good. As coaches, as when we're monitoring that, we just watch, and as soon as a student starts to, maybe abuse their power a little bit, then we just pick their partners for them. Right. So it's like, well, you're not going to go with her, you're going to go with her, and in this role, you have to hold 2 tennis balls in your hand. And you're not allowed to put them down. So now we've handicapped the way that person can roll. So there's just modifications. To ensure that they understand that it's okay to be the best in the room. It's okay to be the most aggressive. It's okay to be like the hardest. But we have to do it in consideration to your partners because without your partners, you can't train anymore. So then just again, after they have those roles, you pull the kid aside and be like, why did I put you with so-and-so? And they generally know. Like I went too hard with the grade 3 students. Like, yeah, you did. What do you have to do when you go with Brady? He's this big and you're in grade 6. Like, what do you got to do? I got to let him work. I got to be lighter when I'm in mount so he has an opportunity to train. It's like, that's exactly what I need to hear. Go pick your own partner now. Right.
And having those conversations, and it's so funny you say that because we're talking about my workplace and I always tell people that I'm just babysitting at just a big level, but it's interesting what happens when you level with someone and just give someone an ounce of like dignity or not even that, or like giving people the context of like, oh, do you know that's actually happening? Yeah. And like, I'm going to explain it to you now. So now if this goes further, well, we have a foundation of something that we've built here, of a conversation that we've had, but it's very shocking how quick the behavior changes when you just go, well, let's just break it open here.
Yeah.
What exactly is happening? And instead of like unleashing hell and losing my mind, how quickly someone goes, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, sure. How easy that is. But even when you look at, I'm sure you might have seen it through your experience where like some people struggle with their ability of like, how do I actually like address this without ruining it for them, right? I also want to talk about the other side of it where it's keeping students motivated and trying to allow them to feel a certain way because it's healthy, but also like bringing them up. Like, is there a gap between that of like letting them fail a bit? And is there like a safety net where like there is a safety, like, okay, I'm not going to let this person get destroyed because it's going to completely turn them off the sport. Yeah. But there is a level of they have to go through that to learn that type of resilience and be humble in defeat. And is there like, where does that line get drawn?
Those are, as instructors, we have to monitor the room for that to make sure that we are putting the right students together at the right times, right? We have some students in the high school program that when they go together, it looks like the finals of the Worlds, which we can't have those roles Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Like once a week, those are good. So then it's just monitoring and making sure that every student is getting what they need, which is why I have to surround myself with really, really strong instructors, because I can't see in a room of 30. I can't see the one student who's normally like a top 5 student having a terrible day because something happened on the weekend, dog died or failed an exam. So mentally they're not there. He can't go with the normal students that he would go with because that's going to be a bad day. So giving him a different role on that day and seeing that and be like, okay, come here for a second. I know you're not having a great day. How about you roll really light with the grade 3s today? And he's like, okay, I'll do that. And then it's like you pull that leadership out. It's like, I know you're having a bad day. I don't want you to have hard rounds today, but I do want you to mentor these students. And then there's other days where that same kid is on fire. And it's like, you get no rounds off today. You're doing 5 3-minute rounds without a break, no water, and then we'll see how you're doing at the end.
Right.
Because that's the day where we've recognized that we can push. So just making sure that like those kids situations that come up, especially given that we have them during the school day, so many things like at Donnan we get them in the afternoon, so they have the entire morning of getting up in the morning, maybe having breakfast, we don't know, maybe not having a snack after recess, maybe something happens at recess, maybe they get yelled at by their teacher because they didn't get their homework done, or they weren't prepared for class, and then I get them. So that interaction with all of the kids before class to kind of gauge where everybody's at, and then watching our warm-up to see where everybody's at, then allows us to, like you said, do we push this student today in a way where they have to learn to be resilient because I'm going to handicap matches so they can't just submit everybody and win. They're going to either tie or lose all their matches today because we need to build that. He needs that right now. Versus another student who looks exhausted, and then you ask them questions, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't have lunch today because you guys left the house and you forgot it. So now your gas tank. We start at 1, we're done at 3:30. By 2:30, you're going to be physically finished.
Right.
So how do I get that person that last hour? How do we get that to be productive and successful? It's like, well, we have to modify what we're asking of them.
Have you ever had to like advocate based on the requirements of a program like this? How has like working within a traditional schooling system, and have you had to like advocate outside of it to make sure that child like brings their best foot forward?
Those are just conversations with the parents, and it's no different than when I had my grade 5 classroom. Some days you got to talk to a parent about effort. Some days you have to talk to a parent about behavior. Sometimes it's about peer interactions, which is no different than when I had my grade 5 class. We'd have problems at recess all the time because it's unstructured play. So we'd have, or somebody who came to me from a different school and they have a built-in hate for math. It's like, well, how do I get you to change that? Like, I can work with the student, but then I also need to work with the parents. So we get all those same aspects in jiu-jitsu. So sometimes it's a conversation after school when the parents come to pick up their kids. But like, hey, I'm seeing this in class a lot. Do you see this at home? Do you see this at their gym at nighttime? Do you have any recommendations for me? And sometimes it's as simple as the parents being like, oh, he really thrives if you give him extra jobs. Right? So on a break, he's the kid I asked to sweep the mats real quick. Right? So now, like, there's a little bit more between him and I than the rest of the students, because I'm always asking him, like, hey, can you do me a favor? Right? So then when I ask him to do something when I'm seeing poor behaviors or, a lack of focus in training, and I'm like, hey, can I get you to focus this round? I really need a good round of drilling. I get that same response.
Is maintaining the relationship with the parents just as important as the kids, or is it is there like a balance structure there where it's like, I really need to make sure I have like my like relationship with this kids and like their parents, it does matter, but like my main focus needs to be this, or are they both kind of equal?
Given how much I see the kids, the relationship with the kids has to be primary. I lean on parents when the kids start to present issues to me that like I can't figure out on my own, right? Because then you just go to the experts. Like you see your kid, you raise them, and then it's a conversation on like how we can be successful. Like, what are you seeing at home? Is this behavior the same? These are the things that I've seen that work. Does that work for you at home? And if it doesn't, then it's more of a school issue. And then with my instructors, we'll come up with a game plan. And when we do, then we'll include parents in it and say like, okay, well, this is what we're trying at school. And sometimes the meetings have to happen. Other times they're just really, it's like I said, an after school conversation, and it's non-official. It's more like, hey, I got a question for you.
Right. Have you ever had an instance where you had to have like a tough conversation by almost having someone exit the program?
We haven't had kids exit the program in terms of a behavior or poor performance or anything like that. The majority of the kids that exit the program, they either just decide they don't like jiu-jitsu.
Or probably time.
And then going from grade 6 into grade 7 at Vimy has so many more sport programs. We lose a lot of kids to their primary sport.
Right.
So my grade 6 graduating class this year was 13, and I think I have 4 going into lacrosse and 2 going into baseball. And like, they told me when they joined in grade 4, that's the plan. I'm like, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to change that, but that's the way it is. But it's the kids that stay. Right. Like,
and then you kind of hone on their skills.
Yeah, and then those are the kids that identify jiu-jitsu as their primary sport. Yeah.
Right. And when you look at the school program, and this is like a double question, but when you look at scalability, but you also look at like subjective grading, or objective, I'm not sure what the difference is between the two. I'm brain farting here. But when you look at like actual measurable things and putting this into a curriculum, how does this act, given that everybody comes from different skill levels, what are like the actionable, like measurable things when you look at as like a school-based curriculum program?
Yeah, it's funny. I have to award like marks in the report card for the phys ed piece.
Right.
So at Donnan, it's just what we're doing like in jiu-jitsu. At Vimy, we do 3 days of jiu-jitsu and then 2 days of actual phys ed. So it's kind of like 66% jiu-jitsu, and then there's the phys ed actual Alberta curriculum component. But then at the same time, we also grade the students in jiu-jitsu for belts, right? So we have some students who have the ability to get an A in jiu-jitsu on their report card, but they don't level up a belt in jiu-jitsu in the year, right? So when we're looking at how do we grade the students, whether it's objectively or subjectively, we have to make a decision on like where's the line between the two, right? So we can't not grade jiu-jitsu base for the belts, right? Because I don't ever want my students to go into a tournament and just get absolutely smashed because I'm giving belts out like they're candy, right? Because that's not fair to the students.
Yeah.
So we hold the students to, an equivalent level to all of the other schools in the city. I want them to be able to compete well. I want them to be challenged. It's the same as if we hold kids back too long. I don't want somebody to go into a tournament, not try and just wipe everybody out. Right. Because that's not fair either.
Yeah.
Nobody likes sandbagging.
Yeah.
But then the school aspect of it can't be graded the same way that like jiu-jitsu performance can. Right. So I have to take a look at, okay, what are the standards for a student doing phys ed? Like, what if we played basketball today and I was going to grade them on a scale of 50 for a 60-minute class doing basketball skills, right? There has to be those same things in jiu-jitsu. So then it comes into like their academic grades. It's like it's effort, it's coachability, willingness to try, willingness to fail, interactions with peers, the ability to articulate what they're learning, right? So if we say, hands up, who can show me a single leg? And one kid puts their hand up. It's like, okay. Yeah. Now the whole class has to demonstrate this because I need to be able to see
that everybody knows it.
Progressing.
Yeah.
It's no different than a spelling test on a Friday.
Right. You can't always pick the dude that's shooting his hand up.
It's not optional.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to do it.
Yeah.
And if you get 2 out of 10 on your spelling test, we know that, okay, there's 2 words that you can spell. What happened to those other 8? We have to work on whether it's your study skills, whether it's your in-class focus, whether it's, you need some extra work at home. And it's the exact same thing in jiu-jitsu. So I try to apply the same mentality as when I was an academic teacher to what I'm doing in jiu-jitsu for report card grading.
So when you look at scalability, what do you think would be like, if you would say, what was like your biggest asset in getting this program off the ground, and what kind of other schools, what would be like the recipe to actually have success if you were to like transplant this somewhere else?
The recipe is tricky. Basically, the program, the overarching umbrella of the programs both at Donnan and at Vimy is run by a nonprofit group called Academic and Athletic Development, or AAD. They worked with Edmonton Public, and I think they had been running, I want to say they were around for about 10 or 11 years before I got to Donnan. I think the hockey program was the very first program in all of Edmonton to be a sport program that ran during school hours. By working with Edmonton Public to develop this idea, Edmonton Public said, we'll give you the 2 campuses, Vimy and Donnan, and what we'll do is we'll change the entire academic structure of the day. So at Donnan, like I said, the kids that are in the programs, whether it's hockey, sport fit, or jiu-jitsu, they don't do music, they don't do art, they don't get phys ed, right? The students that are in the arts and academic program at Donnan, they get those things in the afternoon when I'm teaching jiu-jitsu. So the rest of the time at Donnan is just academics. And at Vimy, it's the same thing. My high school group runs blocks 1 and 2, and then blocks 3, 4, and 5 are academics. So for someone to go into another school in Edmonton and say, I want to start a jiu-jitsu program, they'd probably be like, well, where? You can do it at lunchtime, which is why my program is so unique. There are programs in North America, some I've helped get off the ground through conversations over the internet and sending resources back and forth. The easiest way to get it into the school is through high school options, right? Because then like the students are looking at, am I going to take Spanish, woodworking? Oh, cool, jiu-jitsu. I'll take jiu-jitsu 101, and then I'll take jiu-jitsu 201 and 301, and then I'll have those 3.
So when you say options, you mean like elective programs?
Yeah.
Okay.
An elective program, because like with the programs at Donnan and at Vimy, you sign up, there's a tuition for them, and those are built into your academic day. Which is why, if somebody in Saskatoon just decided like, hey, I'm a teacher and I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I want to teach it at my school, and he'd go to the principal and be like, I want to do a jiu-jitsu program, and the principal would be like, well, you can do it at lunchtime or after school, because where in the academic day can we take 2 hours? So unless the schools can set up the same schedule that we have,
right,
then having it in the school can't happen.
Yeah, it's like a huge administration challenge.
It is, but at the same time, it's such a huge benefit for schools, especially schools that are struggling with tuition rates or numbers. Sorry, when you become a specialty school, like we have our designate area that the kids in the area, you're supposed to come to Donnan, but we also, because we're a sports school, we can take kids from anywhere. Like we have kids from Ardrossan, Spruce Grove, Leduc that are driving in for the programming.
And then they still get the grade back at their school?
No,
or they're just taking the program.
They're attending the school at Donnan.
Okay.
Right. So because we're a specialty school, we can take kids from anywhere.
Since it's outside of like your.
Yeah.
Now, is that like a thing where like so you're like a lot of people do come outside of like those school boundaries?
Yeah. Yeah, because if for Edmonton Public, if you have a student who's in grade 5, and it was like me growing up, it was like hockey. There's one Edmonton Public school that has a hockey program to go to.
So then everybody would go there.
Go to Donnan.
Right.
Edmonton Catholic has a larger number of sports schools. I'm not sure how they've been able to do it.
Would that almost affect, like, would that in a way, like when you look at whoever's running the school, would they almost say, well, I don't want these guys to have a program because it's going to hurt my numbers?
I think given that it's Edmonton Catholic and there's a separation there,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really affect our numbers.
Right.
Like, so if you, again, we have kids from everywhere, which
Right.
makes our school population like really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, kids from one small demographic. We have kids from everywhere.
Right.
And it's the same thing over at Vimy. So it's a really neat population. And it benefits the school
Mm-hmm.
to have the ability to draw people from everywhere.
Well, and all those untangibles that, like, it's also aiding, like, your coworkers and developing students that are having way more of like a self-awareness or a internal regulator of like, well, I have to be like emotionally regulated. I have to, because I'm doing some sort of hand-to-hand, so that's, yeah.
And we see that. That's one of my favorite things, especially when I had an academic classroom, is talking to parents at our second conferences saying, and they just like, my son or daughter has never wanted to go to school. Now they're up in the morning and they're like ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you think when we were going to school, you for soccer, me for hockey, what if we just had to do classes until lunchtime,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got to play our sport in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Like, I'd be ready to go every day.
It would be next level.
And then as a teacher, it was so easy for me with motivation with the kids, because like, sometimes kids just aren't motivated to write a paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I'm going to need you to get that paragraph finished. Otherwise, I'm going to have you do it on the bench at
While
hockey
everybody else.
before you get to go on the ice. And all of a sudden, they're just like,
Yeah,
just
done.
Done. It's
Yeah.
like, where's your textbook? I don't know. It's like, I might not let you go to hockey with your stick today then. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden the textbook's out. It's like,
Yeah.
I found it.
Yeah. It's very, very cool. Kind of rounding this up, because I'm so happy to have this conversation with you. And I think I even learned a lot, and even the type of conversation that we had is so beneficial for people to hear. But going into like your personal wants and needs and kind of your idea and where you see this going, the question is to be asked, where do you see full success? Is this the stopping point, or like your ability to advocate this in other places? Is that part of your roadmap?
I think continuing to grow the program. Right now, at both campuses, we're limited by size. At Vimy for the junior high program and the high school program going into next year, like we're capped at 32, given the dojo space that we have. If we tripled the size of our dojo, then obviously like our numbers go up. All the guys I can bring in to help me goes up.
Mm-hmm.
Budget goes up, like all that kind of stuff. But it's also then the students that we can reach.
Yeah.
So that's constantly the talk, is just like, okay, well, how do we get bigger? How do we get bigger successfully by like not over expanding and then having a real drop off in quality?
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, it is what makes the program a success every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, how many kids compete and win? Is it how many kids at the high school, junior high level we see on the honor roll as
Mm-hmm.
being
Like,
really solid student athletes, which is
mm-hmm.
awesome? Is it retention?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like that student that I mentioned that she started with me in grade 3 and she graduates in grade 12 next year, and she's going after a scholarship at the U of A for wrestling?
Yeah.
It's like, if that happens, like the pictures I have with her when we were like teaching her in grade 3, and she's like this big, and now she's like a grown up.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable. And it's like, I've watched that and I've been a part of that. And then the next year we have this huge group. I think there's 9 of them that started with me in grade 3 and 4, and they're going to be in grade 12. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, man,
It's like you're getting your black belt all over again.
I honestly think like when those kids, and there's probably 4 or 5 of them that are going to end up with black belts. Like that day will be better than any day I've had on the mats.
Wow.
Like it's going to be so cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool because like you kind of like in some essence, you've like built this world around them in a way, and then it was up to them of whether or not they wanted to flourish. But it's like someone had to create this environment, like someone had to build this out and structure it in a way. My final question before we get you out of here is, what advice can you give other coaches and educators when it comes to, maybe it's just general teaching, or when it comes to advocating for initiatives in their own jurisdictions?
I think, there's kind of two parts. First part, coaching and teaching. Like I've been teaching now, this is year 23, which makes me seem so old, but it is what it is. Again, it just goes down to your ability to develop real relationships with the kids. When they know that you care and you're interested in them, not just like I'm interested in you as my jiu-jitsu student. It's like I'm interested in like the puppy you got on the weekend, and why did you name it like Junior? Like tell me about that. Like I saw you riding your bike around the neighborhood. Who was the little girl that was trying to keep up with you? Oh, that's your little sister. Tell me more. Those relationships allow you to connect with the students. So then when you have to have hard conversations with them, like there's such a level of trust that they can sit there, even as a 10-year-old, like look you in the eye, digest what you're asking them or telling them to do, and it doesn't damage the relationship, right? We always talk about like if you don't interact with children in the right way, you can lose them, right? And to see a student close a door on a teacher, whether it's at the beginning of the year because the relationship wasn't set and then something negative happened, or halfway through the year where somebody let somebody down and you can actually see it. I was like, there's a lot of work to get back to where like you were. So I think that's the biggest piece, is just that relationships are so important.
Yeah, I totally agree. Having that relationship and just being able to be present and actively listening, I think that's a skill that doesn't necessarily in our day and age where it's a what is it for me, like what's in it for me mentality. It's definitely something that you see as like a very big skill, right? But yeah, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
I really appreciate you taking the time out and coming and having this conversation. It was a wealth of information. I can't wait to share this with the audience.
I guess, the last thing is, if any of your viewers are in a situation where they're thinking, I'm an educator and I'd love to get jiu-jitsu into schools, I am more than willing to help in any way. Perfect. Whether that's an after school program at a school, which is kind of the foundation to getting into a school, or like the guy who's out in Victoria that I helped getting it is option classes. Right. Like I've always said, the more jiu-jitsu that we can have people doing, the better. And if that means that we're in school doing it, I mean, that's the ideal situation. Yeah, we'll definitely grab your contact information and we'll put it below emails, socials, whatever that is, and we'll put it in the description of the video. Yep, and then, perfect. With that, that has been another episode of Solo Spotlight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Check us out on all of our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, X. We just started that. Join our Insiders channel and be ready. We have a lot. I took a week off, so I had to stack the books now, and I have so many interviews planned, so many exciting guests that I can't wait to share with you. So stay tuned, subscribe for more. With that, that's been another episode of Solo Spotlight.